3D files. So here's my SketchUp file. You may have this view, you may not, just depending on the presets. But if you do come up with the import options and the outline faces, we want no, and create back faces no, and then go OK. I've got a feeling the way that it's set up on the lab computers, it'll just automatically import. So we go OK. So now we have our model that we from SketchUp, and you can see to the right these front views, or the views that we'd saved, also come through as well, which is quite useful for us. We'll just do a really basic render to see what happens. So we have got our model in, and we need to add an environment map. So you can see down the bottom there's a number of tabs. So I've clicked on the environment map. I would recommend staying away from the photographic environment maps and sticking with the sort of generic environment maps, just because it's actually quite difficult to get the scale correct in relation to the environment map. The environment map enables the rendering in HDR to calculate the lighting. So I think I quite like this one. It's quite a simple one. What else have we got? Just check. That's a good starting point. You probably could find other environment maps online if you want to have a play. So here, Studio 2 is what I'm going to go with. So we need to come up, I've selected under the default, I've selected the render tab, and there's a whole lot of buttons along the top. We want to load HDR environment, so click on that one. Load environment map. Make sure, so here you're on the C drive, program files, right hemisphere, deep exploration, and then environment maps. Double click, and then we want Studio Light 2. So open. So it's added it, and at this stage we don't need to worry about anything else. The other button, because we're in the render tab, the other button we want is render. But before we click that, we just want to adjust a few settings. So if we click on the side, a little arrow down, and then hit render properties, we want to make sure that we're on HDR ray tracing, and under output we want custom, and then width 1600 by 900 pixels. Type those in. If you want a transparent background, we can check that, but we don't at this stage. Render a new render, HTrails, and just set that up a little bit. That will increase rendering time, so at this stage we'll just keep it normal. And then if we hit OK, that sort of set all our controls. We can actually then just come up and hit the render button, and it will now go through and start calculating and building up that process. So you can see it starts to go through and start that rendering. So it looks okay in normal, but I'm not overly impressed. But that's kind of useful to get an idea of what's going on. I'll just close that down, but close there. I do want to adjust it, so come back down to render properties, HDR ray tracing, and I'll just go up to high, and if we click render from there, see how we go. You'll also notice that this will take a longer time. So I'm just going to pause the recording, and we'll come. So here's our rendering. So you can see the quality is much higher, but it took a lot longer to render. We want to save this image, so we can come down the bottom and there's a little save as, so we can click on save. Make sure you don't save it as a bump map. We want to save it as either a JPEG or a TIFF image. JPEG is compressed, as similar to an MP3 file, which is loses a little bit of quality, but has a small file size, or TIFF, which is like audio on a CD. This is uncompressed and has better quality, but has larger file size. So at this stage, I'm just going to save it as a JPEG, and we'll just call it 134 render. Delete that. 01 2010, and then the setup will be a little bit different, but make sure you save it to your H drive. So there's my H drive, and I've got a 134 file, so I can save it in there. So now we've got one image. The next video tutorial, I'm going to go over adding textures, and then the quality of those textures, and messing with lights as well. Okay.